Hi, I'm Chris Ketke, and today I'd like to show you a wonderful recipe for truly delicious pork chops that we're going to cook on the Sabre grill and then put a little bit of a Guinness barbecue sauce on top. But before we get to the pork chops, we have to mix up a little dry rub, and you can see all the different ingredients that's going to wind up inside of this dry rub. We have some brown sugar, lots of paprika, that's going to give us a great color, some oregano, coriander, celery salt, black pepper, cayenne chili because it does need to have a bite. I have a little bit of cumin over here and some salt. So let's go ahead and just put those all into the bowl. And you know, one of the beauties of making a dry rub is what you basically are doing is introducing a host of different flavors on the outside of the meat so that when you cook it, not only do you get the flavor of the pork itself, but you get this great sort of just abundance of flavors on the outside of the meat. All right, there we go. That is all mixed up. Now I have 6 pork chops over here that are boneless pork chops, and they don't have to necessarily be boneless. You could just as easily use a bone-in pork chop. The important thing is here, if you take a look at these pork chops, they're quite thin actually. And that's important because you're going to see in a little bit when we put them on the grill why that's so important. All right, dry rub on one side, and I'm just sort of pressing it into the meat a little bit. I'm going to flip the pork over, and I'm going to add some more of the dry rub to this side. Because remember that when you put the seasoning on both sides of the pork, what you're basically doing is improving the flavor profile of the entire pork chop. There it is, perfect. And just like on the other side, I'm just going to sort of press that into the meat, maybe even sort of massage it in a little bit so that it sticks to the meat because the meat is wet, and so that dry rub will adhere to the meat. All right. Now, it's time to cook the pork chops. Now, this is where the Sabre grill really comes in handy. Now, the nice thing is you can cook on very high or very low heat. It has lots of different temperatures. But for a thin cut of meat like this, we really want to have a very hot grill. And you know, using the Sabre grill really reminds me of sort of the intensity of the heat. When that's up all the way, it's just like cooking in a restaurant. And why is that important? Because we want to be sure that the outside of the meat is nicely grill marked, because that's where the flavor's at, and we don't want to overcook the middle. And this grill allows you to do that, nice and brown on the outside and still moist in the middle. You can see the beautiful color that these pork chops have, and that's because of the heat of the grill, but it's also because of that dry rub on the outside. Now it's time to sort of finish these with just a heavy coating of Guinness barbecue sauce right on top of the pork chops. And you really want to put this on at the last minute, because otherwise, if you put it on too early, it'll burn up on top. So just brush it on nice and thick. At this point, we want to let those cook for just a couple minutes more, and they're done. Once they come off the grill, serve them with lots of barbecue sauce on the side for a delicious dinner. For the recipe for these pork chops and the Guinness barbecue sauce, check out betterbarbecueblog.com.